Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor. Hopefully everybody can hear me today. I see we are a little off on the screen here. My day was pretty busy today. I had to take a car into the shop and I ended up sitting there for a long time for some work that I already had done 2 months ago that should not have had to need to be repaired again. So anyway, my day was kind of shot this morning. So I had to schedule pretty much a bunch of stuff around. And then I had some pickups and stuff to do today too. So anyway, my day was totally blown with the car and such forth. So I'm sure you've all had that. I had all the brakes done, and they still didn't have something right. This is like the third time, and long story short, everything's fixed, and I had a nice argument with somebody. But anyway, we're on to the show tonight. I wish my color was still a little off on here. I'm sorry about the image here. Again, we're still work in progress here. I know we've been trying to get this all corrected over the last few weeks here, but there's a lot more to it, and I don't have quite enough time here. I've fixed some of my time issues, so hopefully after this week going, as long as my car doesn't have issues or one of the kids or something doesn't have issues, we should be good to go. But we're going to go on to just a few things here. I'm going to hit a couple big notes here real quick. All of you who do the marketing ploy with the markdowns, you know that eBay finally sent a letter around saying that you can actually list it right away and you don't have to wait 14 days anymore. I know a lot of people are happy about that. For me, I haven't used that per se, so I can't say the difference it makes. But I know a lot of people are happy, and that's a good thing. At least they listen to everybody this time. And I know a lot of times in the past, they do what they want, and they don't pay a lot of attention to what's actually going on. So anyway, it was nice for them to have that issue fixed to at least satisfy the majority of folks out there. I'd say at least 80% of the people that talk to me and subscribers and things say that that was a big issue for them. So for me, I don't see it as that big of an issue for me, but I completely am very happy that they fixed it for everybody else. I can see where everybody could use it depending on your business and how your model is. So anyway, for me, I don't put anything up and then mark it down. Just I let it ride, and again, it just depends on where you're at in the business. Nothing wrong with it. But for those of you who are starting out and you got to do some turns, constantly have turns and turns, and you can't do as many long tail items, I can completely understand. So I do whatever it took to get the money coming in, to get my sales up, to make my figures and make my pay my rent and whatever else you need to do. So you got to do what you got to do, and if that means putting stuff up and marking it down instantly, that's just fine with how you set it up. So anyway, let's do a few holler outs to see who's here tonight. Let's see, David Rubino, Carl Bach. I'm gonna answer questions in just a second, so Carl, I'll be back to that in just a minute. Bill McCabe, Thomas Lerzer, Myler Truk, and I'm sure I pronounced that terribly. I apologize. Costa, let's see here, the Veranda Files, Aaron Klug, Lauren Johnson, Larry Spicer, Chad T, Penny Day, Duncan VR, and John Jones so far. Welcome everybody to tonight's show. I've been thinking about some other things here too, and my goal today was to do a live pick or haul kind of so you can see how I'm digging through. I've got 1,200 postcards I haven't touched sitting here that I got from a sale. And I'm going to wait on those and not touch those so everybody can see how I look through them. I might do like a live Wednesday haul or something, just like once, in the morning, a different time, and let some other folks get a chance to, because a lot of people can't do it in the morning. And I'll do a haul, maybe a live video that way, and look through. Just because today my time was shot. I spent almost 4 hours dealing with the car issue and stuff, so half my day was, not half, but a chunk of my day was gone, so I didn't have time to set anything up. We literally ran. I wasn't sure if I was even going to get on at 7 tonight, so anyway. Another thing that I thought I'd shout out before I do another question here. Now, this is a big one, and this one caught me off guard. It's nothing to really worry about, but eBay has some major systems in play that I had no clue that they went this far. So eBay is far more advanced in their search criteria than I ever expected, and security-wise. This goes to a plus for eBay. If you look up Kenner Post Office or Kenner, Louisiana Post Office, you are going to see someone who is basically committed the biggest fraud out of a postal service facility in the history of this country, and he did it with eBay. I may do a little video, just a short one on this tomorrow, along with the normal one. But this is an issue that eBay caught, along with PayPal. They realized that this gentleman was selling a ton of postage stamps, brand new ones for under face, which people do. I self postage stamps under face when I get them from like a pick or something, and I've done it many times. I do, like 60%, 70% of face value. Well, this guy had sheet after sheet after sheet, and something in the system alerted eBay of it as well. They conversed with PayPal, and then they reported it to the federal government, to the Postal Service, and sure enough, this guy stole over $500,000 as of right now. It may be way more than that in just stamps. And he had been doing this for 7 years. Recently, he pulled it onto eBay where he was doing a ton on eBay. I don't know where he was selling them before that. But this was literally perpetrated through eBay. eBay's system realized that he was selling something that technically would be hard to get that much quantity at that price. So somewhere in their system, they've got some very big security features that I know they exist, things like that, and I've worked for some places that had some key things where you could tell when orders were done, but the system caught it over and above the fact that the U.S. Post Office didn't realize this guy was ordering $600,000 more of stamps than his postal store facility, his post office, was actually using. I am really shocked that it was eBay who caught this as opposed to the post office. So they've got some stuff built into there that you may be surprised. I know people say, they don't give eBay a lot of credit, but from everything I see, and I've talked about this before, I really think that eBay's system, their databases, their structure on it, the security is much better than most people actually give them credit for. And I'm not trying to blow eBay's smoke here, because I'm going to tell you a bad story that I had today that's out of eBay's hands, and you'll probably have experienced it too, but I'll get that on in just a little bit. Let me write that down so I don't forget it. But I had an issue arise today, and I just want to go over that as well too. But we'll answer just a couple questions here. Carl on packing. I do have many videos. Well, not many, I should say. There's 2 or 3 videos that cover literally packing cards. And they go into fairly good detail on cards. I am getting ready to, and I've actually shot like maybe a 5-minute video to add to a major packing video, because I've had a lot of calls or emails and texts and questions on, could I show some of what I have going out every day. Tomorrow morning I'm going to do a little video on some of the items going out tomorrow. We sold a bunch today, so it's a good example. You can get a good gist on how many items I got going out. But tomorrow morning I've got like 62 items going out. So, and I figured I'd just show a quick clip on that. So you can kind of get an idea on the amount of packages and things like that, because I've had, I don't know, half a dozen or more people ask that question. So I will probably throw that together with some sort of packing on some of the items that we do, or maybe just pack and show you packing while I discuss my view on certain things or something like that related to eBay, of course. So I just thought I'd touch on that too. I'll just call this out here so I don't forget it anyway. Today I get I'm in PayPal. Somebody paid, bought 2 items and just paid directly instead of waiting for an invoice so I could combine them. And I was going back in to actually refund, half the price because they were cards. I combine them. I always do this. Whether they ask or not, I always combine shipping on everything. If I can fit it in one box, I'll go right back into PayPal and refund through that same purchase the amount of the shipping. That way, if I need to do a refund later on or something happens, it'll be tied in the exact amount that they've paid. It'll subtract the amount of the postage that I refunded them. So there's no way for you to mess up. I know some people in the past just go ahead and do a new PayPal return, like a refund through a new action, new listing. That's the way you lose if you have to come back and refund it. So never do it that way. Always go through the original. Well, anyway, when I was in there, I noticed that I had a case opened up on PayPal, and it's a chargeback case. So I always, I look these up every time I go back. I track to where it's to, and I find out that the person got it in July, paid for it, it arrived, and he left positive feedback, loved it, loved the record. And then this month on the 8th, he opens up doesn't know how the charge got there, doesn't know what it's for, and all this other stuff. Obviously, it's through PayPal, but I did report it to eBay. eBay can't do anything when they do this. So for those of you who are new to it, this is the worries that you might have to deal with are chargebacks. It's hard to win a chargeback, but in this case, your best goal is to get this guy on email with you on eBay. Get him to say something, get him to acknowledge that he's got it, get him to say something at all. He was trying to claim that he closed an accidental case on the 8th, not that he opened it, but I've confirmed. I even called and found out the information from PayPal, his card company, and I even called them to verify when the case was opened, and sure enough, that the gentleman was not being honest with me, but I got him to admit that he got it, so that stuff is pertinent to a case and can actually be posted on PayPal to challenge it against the charge card company to show that this gentleman is not being honest. He even left feedback that he liked it. So had you not gotten this guy on there, you can't prove anything, or you didn't add tracking, they're going to win the case no matter what. Even if he sends you something and says, I got it or whatever, if he doesn't specifically mention it, there's no tracking, he could always come back and say that he was mistaken, he thought it was a different item. And I've seen that before in person. So I just thought I'd address that. What you want to do is get the folks on email and get them through eBay to admit to something, admit to getting it. If nothing else, if he says it was an accident and it wasn't, at least you got proof of what he said, and it's his account. His account hasn't been locked. He didn't mention a word of it to eBay. He didn't mention a word of anything to PayPal. The only way these people can get away with it straight almost every time is if they go through a chargeback on that. So as a chargeback, it's hard to fight. But this time, he left feedback. I've got a record now, 3 different emails where he acknowledged what's going on and that it was his issue. Don't believe that that's what's going on, because his banking, or his card company told me something else, and as did PayPal. PayPal wouldn't have opened up this case now if he supposedly canceled it. I know it may take a day or something to get through the system, but if he's talking about it only takes a couple days, give it some time, and it was done on the 8th, and these are all business days, it's just not an honest case. So just keep yourself safe on these. Always get them to admit something, no matter what the case is. If they're trying to do anything, say it nicely. Don't ever accuse anything. Just say, hey, what happened? Make it as a joke, like something happened, and get them to admit something. That's the number one thing. And I'll have to be honest, about 60-70% of the time I can get somebody to say something that will either void their feedback or that will void the whole issue, where I will be sided with either way. So, and that's a pretty high percentage. You're not going to win them all, I can tell you right now. It's stacked against you through the charge card company anyway. Maybe not so much with eBay anymore, but eBay surprises me sometimes. Them catching the case with the post office is a good example on that. So, it's just not something. I was honestly surprised. I just thought eBay wouldn't have had their stuff together. Now, and another side note, I talked about Facebook and all. Facebook got hit again in Europe, from what I understand, with the European Union. Facebook does have some issues, so until I get everything situated or figure out, if it's safe, I'm still going to not want any posts with links on it, please, on my Facebook group page. I know they can be helpful, and I'm going to try and move my page around, because on my side it shows up directly, all of my rules for my Facebook group. So I don't know how it shows up on the other side. I haven't really had a chance to go in there. I've never been a huge Facebook person per se. So we've had a Facebook account for the family for years. So, and the kids have them and all that stuff. But I'm not a big social media guru on all this. So I just need a little more time digging into it. So I want to make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. But on to that. Those are key issues. Again, Halloween we all is coming up. I do have contests coming up for Halloween. I'm going to give away something today. And again, for Halloween, I'm giving away, these are actual original pieces of art, hand-painted by me. They're watercolors. All of these are watercolors. These are painted actual size, as you see. I'm going to give away one of these at the winner's choice on Halloween. Any one of these. I'm sorry, this one goes this way. This one is, the green. I just noticed the green screen doesn't like the green I have. But this one here, I'm actually going to be giving away this postcard here today. And it's actually, this is the original art for this postcard here. Again, it does not like my coloring on that one either. I guess it's a little too green. Do apologize for that. I'll have to pay attention to that next time. But again, that postcard will be given out today for somebody here. I'll call it out in a little while, and I'll try and make my stuff a note. I know I'm bad on doing that. I did send one out last week. I'll try to send one out all the way through Halloween. And again, somebody's going to win an original piece of artwork if they wish. And still, my plan for Christmas is to give away a trilobite. I'm still tentatively waiting for a response on some of the trilobite stuff. I've got one going off to Tested. Adam Savage, if you don't know who that is, from Mythbusters. I'm sending one off to their site, to their mailbag, to see what happens there. So who knows? It's just a sample basically at this point. So anyway, we'll go over to the eBay issues here too. I had some issues here. Tax-wise, don't worry about tax yet. I have a lot of people talking about going to anchor stores. The only thing I want to say about that is Don't do it until you are ready. Don't do it till you know that the money is there and that you have a steady income. I'd keep running it for a little while to make sure that you're not going to have any hiccups and get stuck with a bill that you can't afford or a reoccurring fee. If you drop out after you sign up for like a year advance, there could be a penalty depending on why you're dropping out. So just keep that in mind. Always do a cost benefit on it, a benefit analysis of what you got coming in, and how much it's going to save you, whether it's practical. You can always put your listings into inventory and then download those listings and then reload those to a different account. Now, I know somebody who has personally done that without issue. I have tested a couple dozen listings, so I know myself that it works. I haven't had any glitches, but I haven't done a huge amount of them. I've only done enough to test it because we've been still playing with opening up a third anchor store. Money-wise, it makes sense to us at this point, but I'm just worried about logistics just before Christmas, and I'm worried about the fact that a new store won't have as much feedback. So I think we're going to wait regardless till the first of the year, after all the holidays are said and done, just to have a better smooth transition from 2 to 3 of these stores. And that way by Christmas, my third store should have enough feedback to be viable for the holidays. And I know a lot of people say feedback doesn't mean a lot, but I promise you it does. I don't know how many people I talk to. I ask a lot of questions. I wouldn't say specifically a survey, but I ask a lot of questions of people when I run into them. I ask a lot of questions on eBay in general to people that buy from me. I converse. I talk to people all the time, through emails and stuff, on some of these folks. And I just try to get their feel on, their opinions on things like that. So if you do the same thing, you're going to come to the conclusion that more people are going to look at that feedback than you could ever imagine. It's a high percentage. Maybe if it's something new and there's 100 vendors that are selling the same thing, it might be different. But if you're selling collectibles where there's only a couple of anything left, your feedback is important because it's only down to a 33% chance they're going to pick you. And if you have better feedback, they're obviously going to go with you. In many cases, even if it costs more, because they know that they can trust that what they are going to get is going to be the right thing. It's going to be real. It's going to be authentic, and so forth. So that's some of what I personally look at, and I've actually investigated. I try to do research and everything. Maybe people think I waste my time on it, but as a general rule, my life's pretty headache-free, hassle-free. Even with the aspect with the chargeback. In this one here, it costs me like 10, 15 minutes of my day on top of the car 4 hours. But, so it's not a huge ordeal, so to speak, on that. So, it's fixed, it's done. I just bring it up to stress the issue that this kind of stuff happens and just be ready for it, especially with holiday season. The number one time of the year that you're going to get scammed is fourth quarter. It's across the board. People are going to scam so they can get money themselves. So they'll buy higher dollar items and then send you back something junk. This is when it's going to happen, fourth quarter. So if someone's not telling you that, that's the fact. I can pull up, the last 5 or so, well, actually 6 years almost now of information from us. And the time that we get these kind of issues always happen in fourth quarter, right before Christmas, right in time for these folks to scam somebody, cash out on the money, and then go buy something or use the money for their Christmas. That's just the way it is. Talk to an officer. I have a real good friend who's lieutenant in the deputy sheriff's department here. He's number 3 in command. I talked to him. I've heard all the stories. This is the time that it's going to happen. And every police officer who's worth their weight in gold is going to tell you the same thing. Holiday season, shoplifting goes up. Break-ins into cars go up. So even when you're out shopping, this is the time of year that it happens. Don't leave your doors unlocked. Don't do anything like that. So just keep that in mind. Fourth quarter is great for sales, but it's also great for scammers. So again, just write that down. Keep track of that. Keep thought of that. Don't take it personally, and solve it the best way you can. Let's go down and see what we got. Any new people popping on? Let me see here. I got a few that I didn't even call out yet. Duncan VR, I think I've called you. Dwight Lucky, Brad Axelrod, welcome everybody. Let's see here. DJT, welcome. RCMADIAX, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. I do apologize. Moonshine Fuel, welcome. Let's see here. Rowdy Romantic, welcome. Ben the Bartender, welcome. Palmy Pickers, welcome. One of these days, I'd love to go to Australia, but I'm paranoid of the spiders down there. I think you have the world's most venomous spider, and after a mild brown recluse bite here and the hospital and all that I had to deal with, I would never want to go and deal with a spider there. Nothing against your country. I was a huge Steve Irwin fan. We were very sad when he died and was, anyway. Chick Picker, welcome. Gary Nicholson, welcome from the UK. Let me go back up here because I think I missed some things already. Hang on here. Give me just a second, folks. Yeah, just look it up. It's in the how-to playlist here. So, it'll be available. For those of you in my Patreon group, too, I'll have my the rest of your packet of stuff will be up by this weekend, by Sunday at the very latest, including your complete breakdown on the videos, too. So, just FYI for those. Penny Day, howdy, Chad T. If I missed you, I'm sorry. I saw older stamps and postal history. I love older stamps and postal history. One of the collections I personally keep myself, I collect U.S. possessions. So I've got, most every Puerto Rico overprint. I've got Guam. I've, all of those, Philippine Islands, Canal Zone. I've got, most of the Hawaiian issues that are reasonably priced, for my own self anyway. So I like stamps. I love postal covers and history. So anyway. Let's see, Dwight. We need to diversify from only selling clothing on eBay. What 5 types of items would you recommend to start with? For us, we sell smalls, pretty much all smalls and paper items. Postcards are always on the top of my list. Photos are in the top 5, I would guarantee, on my list. Vintage toys like Mark's Toys, plastic army figures, metal army figures, Halloween items in general, Christmas items with Santa Claus in general. I mean, that would probably be in my top 5. I mess with slides, glass plate slides, anything of any photographic nature in any way, shape, or form I deal with. Comic books, magazines, books. Now, when I say books, I used to do FBA, so I used to do the scanners and sit there for an hour in a store and scan every single book if I thought it had value. So I come from that background. There's some other people that I followed here on here, and that's where I've got my information from, and that's what started us out. I used to do clothing and that, so I've moved to branches where I can get them cheaper and sell them at a higher price. A lot of the items, though, you got to take into account that some of these are going to be long tail items. It's a numbers game, so you have to have a lot of stuff up for this to work properly. So just please keep that in mind. I have a lot of people saying, I've listed so many, I listed this, I listed that, and I'm still not getting a lot of sales. 200, 300, 400 items in certain categories will not net you a huge quick sale. But if you're not making sales with clothing or whatever you're doing anyway, you have nothing to lose. It's going to be investment in your future is my take on it. You're going to have to judge for yourself, monetarily wise, what you can afford to do and how you can afford to do it as to how many listings you list. Obviously, if you have store levels, the higher up you go on the store level, the cheaper your listing fees will be. So, from that aspect of it, it's the best bet for you to calculate your fees out, know where you stand before you advance your business at all. Make sure you've got enough money to last you to. I would never, ever recommend anybody dropping a job off, even if you hate it beyond belief. I muddled through some jobs that were just miserable jobs, just till I can get to a point where I was safe enough to make that step, whether it means you get to go down part-time to start off with and then cut the chains loose from a traditional job to what we're basically doing. I've talked about this. This has taken me a lot of time to do and a long time to do this. It's not something that just happened overnight at all. So, and I've done it for literally since eBay was called eBay, 20 plus years. So not full time, as I said. So, it's going to take you some work. You've got to have the dedication. You've got to have a vision on what you want out of this, and you've got to have the drive to get to the end of the road. Any good motivational person is going to tell you this. You've got to have a drive. And, whether it's your drive is to be with your family or to get out of a job you hate to do something that you could enjoy, that's a different story. That would be a great drive for you. For me, it is anyway. I know I wasted a lot of my life. I know I say wasted. I guess I didn't waste any of my life. I met my wife. I have 2 wonderful kids and a wife out of my past experiences, and I learned a lot of stuff, and I've seen a lot. I watch some of the reality TVs and the cop shows and stuff, and I've seen some of that in person. Not proud of it. Not trying to brag. It's nothing You know, getting robbed at gunpoint is not an exciting or anything to brag about at all. So, you know, they're very terrifying experiences. And you know, that's another aspect. I worked in bars and restaurants too, where, you know, you got drunks to deal with and, you know, broken glass and, you know, people getting in fights and stabbings. And, you know, I even had stabbings from employees, you know, girlfriend issues, cheating on their husband or their wife, and the spouse shows up. I've got a dog here that's just going nuts on me. Go on, Jinx. Sorry about that. You can put her on the sofa with you. I've got Ian here as usual tonight. Ian, as we said, is employee, has been here 2 years. I'll probably have him actually involved in some of the videos and having a third person helping out, because we've got some other things, as I said, we're going to be doing. I do apologize again for not getting out the live search through here, but my vehicle and stuff, and my son's got some tight schedules. One of my sons goes to a drill meet practice on Saturday morning, and he's way in Michigan, and I didn't want to have any vehicles with issues while any of this is going on. I'm very meticulous on getting the oil changed, you know, regularly, and, you know, the whole work. So anyway, I'm a nut job on that. I got paperwork from the day I bought the car still. So anyway, let's go back over here. Yeah, collectibles, Duncan, always good, always good. Let's see here. Let's see, Mueller truck. I actually have that. It's in the playlist. There is a Excel spreadsheet on there. I do share some other ones in my Patreon, or will. They'll be all up this weekend, as I said. But there is one basic one with actually directions on my how-to playlist that show you how to actually use it. If you want to make sure I'm reminded, when the video posts live, go back in there, Mueller truck, and put a little question at the bottom saying, please, can you give me it? And I will get you the link to that actual video. Because I do now have a spreadsheet that I've put together with all my video content in it. Again, that's one of the pluses for my Patreon accounts. I just wanted to differentiate some of the stuff so that the folks who are helping to support the channel a little better aspect of it get a little more back out of the return out of there. So I do post a video that's more in depth there that you won't see here. But anyway, again, just post a question down in the description on this video for that link, and I'll give you the link to that video for you. Let's see here. I got a defect from refunding a customer. What kind of defect was it, Aaron, if you don't mind me asking? That's kind of odd to get a defect from refunding a customer. It depends on how if they filed a claim not as described or something along that line. You shouldn't get a defect if you've followed the procedures and gave them the refund. I mean, anybody can leave negative feedback over something like that, but if you want to pop down, just curiosity's sake, what it's for, it's hard to know what specifics involved in that, because each case can be different. I have not heard of somebody getting a defect for a refund in general. There's always something else more tied to it, some other reason, or maybe something in the listing wasn't exactly right by the buyer's standpoint. It doesn't mean that you were wrong with something. It means from the buyer's standpoint, and eBay could have sided with somebody. I don't know the case, so anyway. Let's see here. Carl, do you have more return cases on certain types of products versus others? Yeah, clothing's usually the highest I get, and number 2 are toys. Number 3 is comics. And clothing I can see. My wife buys a lot of clothing, and I do too. I buy some shirts and things like that. I'm looking for a new one of these jackets. I love the suede, or not the suede, the velvet plaid, the thin plaid. This is actually a vintage one, so I'm looking for something like that. So we do buy online, and clothing is always the hardest one. The sizes don't match up if it's Chinese product or something like that. But with comic books and toys, they're usually younger people who may not have the money, they may not have a job. You know, those are usually where I have the worst cases. Not so much lately with what we're selling. It's usually newer comic books that tend to be that way, or more child-oriented or young teen-oriented types or titles of comics. At least that's what I see. And the same goes for the toys. They're usually newer. Now, if it's a Marx toy, I don't think I've ever had a Marx toy not paid for. Like any of the toy soldiers, those are always paid for. It's the newer ones. Video games sometimes, but it's usually just toys, comics, and clothing. And as I said, I've eliminated a lot of the clothing, and we sell mostly older toys these days. I'll sell anything toy-wise if it's worth selling. But for the most part, I sell mostly older toys, which are also obviously a good category to sell. And I've got at least 4 or 5 videos that just cover some of the toys that we do sell. So anyway. We got quite a few people on, so if anybody, now I know the green screen is going to show this off, unfortunately, but if anybody wants a free postcard, the first person to go to my About Me page here on YouTube and then send me an email asking for that card, I will send it to you free of charge. All you got to do is supply an address, free postage, free everything. It'll be sent in a top loader as well, all sealed up. Some of the folks in my Facebook group have shown some of how they're packed, and you can see it'll be well taken care of. It'll be signed as well, too. So if you're interested, again, if you've already gotten one for free, it will not be open to you, unfortunately, just to be fair so other people have a chance. Every week I've had 3 or 4 people respond. So, again, the first one to do it, we've been on for a little while, so that should give somebody a chance. So that's 30 minutes in. I've got 70 or so live watchers now, so one person can get the first one out here. Halloween, as I said, I'm going to give out an original piece of work, and I will also give out a few postcards that night. So I'm dressed in full Halloween costume on my Halloween video. I'm not 100% sure on which day of the week I'm going to pull it on. I don't want to do it on a Halloween night because I know a lot of people have kids, and I know that I personally do everything with my kids, and we have Halloween things that we always do. So it may not be Halloween night for everybody else's sake and as well ours, so we can be with our family as well as you can too. But it will be the week of Halloween. And as I said, an original piece of art. The original piece of art I usually get $100 minimum for. So, I could throw it up on eBay and probably get $100 out of it right now. So you're getting something worth $100 for the person. That'll be the biggest one I give away. And I was going to do something. We hit, I think, 1,000 subscribers tonight, or if not, we will tonight. But I'm just going to go with the Halloween one here because that's a pretty decent giveaway, and I just haven't had a lot of time to throw something together. I like to do like a puzzle, I guess you'd say. I'm more like a puzzle person. I don't want to just randomly give, a little better item away. So anyway. But again, if anybody wants that free one, the first person to send me an email will get a hand-signed postcard to the house. It's one that I don't think I've given out to anybody yet. I think I have them up online, though. But again, if you get that, the freebie tonight, you could get the chance to get the actual original piece of artwork that actually was used to print that card. And I do sell these cards fairly regularly. Right now, it's my busiest time for selling Halloween cards. I sell at least one a day, every single day of the week or more on my Halloween cards that we do. I've got Christmas ones coming out soon, which I'll be giving away once we get past a few more of the holidays here toward December. So anyway, let's go back to some questions here. I know I ramble on a little bit, but let's go on down here. Best offer seems to be I'm not going to pay lately. Best offers for me, they pay. I don't really have the issue. I used to force them to pay immediately on everything when they buy it, even at cost. Nowadays, I don't do that. I hardly even have to send out notices of, unpaid item notices and stuff. I used to do it automatically, but I even stopped that routine of it because I'll let people wait longer than usual. And believe it or not, if you don't mess with them, most people pay it. I'm not in a hurry to get $10 from somebody. So if they take 7 days, I ask them what's going on. They say it'll be a couple more days. I'm fine with that. And then again, as I've talked about before, I have people that buy stuff throughout the entire month. They'll buy stuff. And at the end of the month, they might have 30 or 40 items, and then they pay all at once. And they're usually older people, or they collect certain things, and I'm fine with that. I've got maybe a half a dozen people who do that every single month of the year. One of them's a very nice lady, and she does it for a church group. She's got a bunch of kids, and she helps babysit. So, I know some of the aspects of these people. Get to know some of your customers. I know people don't really care about that these days, but, I guarantee you I'm very cordial with everybody. If they ask a question, I try to always answer it. I know people say don't answer questions, but if you're selling antiques and collectibles, you're going to run into the same buyers over and over again if you get the same kind of stuff. Don't cut your bridges. Don't burn those bridges down. Always be open to this kind of stuff happening. Finances happen and things like that. After a certain length of time, what I do is I'll ask them what's going on. After 7 days, I don't get a response. I'll open up a case. If they say something, I'll usually give them another 7 days. After 2 weeks, then I will do something with the case. I'm never in a rush anymore these days. Now, I used to be, let's turn this over. Let's turn it and relist it. Let's turn it and relist it. When you've got enough numbers to your store, it turns into a numbers game, and you can work with this kind of stuff. So, people will come back, and after a while, you get people that'll ask you ahead of time, hey, do you mind this? Do you mind that? Can I pay 2 weeks from Friday? I'll make a little note on a board. I'll know when to ask them again. If they don't follow through with what they say, that's a different story. But if you're upfront and nice to people, it's not a huge ordeal. So at least for us with Best Offer. And Best Offer for us is it's on mostly collectibles and antiques. 95, probably literally 95% of everything we sell is done on a Best Offer. You can check out my store. You can see that that's probably the facts. I think every haul that I've done, like 95 to 98% of every item I've shown you in, not in a haul, in a What Sold video, has sold on a Best Offer, and they were paid for. And right now I only have 3 items that aren't paid for, and they're from this week when the last 4 days. So, it depends on what you sell. If you sell clothing, I can see that happens. People find another clothing piece that looks like that, maybe for a little cheaper, and they try to blow you off. A lot of people don't worry about the dings they get. They'll just open up another account or whatever the case may be. There's 100 different reasons people can scam you, but for the most part, most people who collect antiques and collectibles are good on paying, at least from my personal experience. I don't take any of the grief. I don't let it bother me if they don't pay. I just, block the seller or block the bidder, relist the item after the case closes, and then I'm done. I don't even worry about it again. They can't even contact me to say anything because I clicked a little radio box that says prevent them from emailing me when you block them. So there's nothing they can do. They can't harass me. If they didn't pay, they can't leave feedback no matter what. So you're done with them. There's nothing to worry about after that aspect of it. You haven't mailed the item out. You can still sell the item. Most items that I sell once, if I have to relist them, I'm going to sell them again, or I do sell them again. And probably more than half the time I sell them the second time for cheaper than the first time. Believe it or not, and I can go over, item after item that this has happened to. It's not a lark. It's literally what usually happens. So anyway. Yeah, PayPal does cover chargebacks under seller protection, but not always, and there are cases where you're going to lose with PayPal. And I've learned that from many years of dealing with PayPal. Back in the day, we've taken charge cards on eBay years back, but obviously PayPal is the way. We used to take money orders and checks and stuff, which you still can take, but you got to do it as a local pickup. And I forgot to mention that in another video. You can switch something to a local pickup and then take any form of payment you want, even if it's one eBay says don't do, because it's a local pickup and you're marking how it's collected. So it's none of eBay's problem on how it's collected. Just an FYI. I just wanted to get that out there. Yeah, so I don't always trust PayPal. My PayPal card has had issues. I've had it hacked, as I've talked about before, twice. And PayPal wasn't as quick to fix it as they have been, or should be, I should say. Overall, I'm fairly happy with PayPal, but, Aiden hopefully will be an improvement. And I've even heard talk that PayPal will still always be an option, so who knows what's going on with that. Let's see here. Moonshine Fuel, 10 hours later dealing with PayPal on eBay. I won't repeat that one. Wastes everybody's time. I'm honestly, I was, when I called PayPal, I got in touch with them within 5 minutes, way quicker than I ever get in touch with eBay. They did, answer it to the best of their abilities. I think, as I said, this one I'll win no matter what, because I've got, confirmed writing that I've actually copied screenshots and added into the charge card company. So the charge card company is going to have to explain how they can say this guy, didn't do it. So anyway. It just depends on your situation with eBay. They're the best game in town. I'm not going to, bite the hand that feeds me. And for me anyway, I know everybody has different experiences, and a lot of people do have some major issues with eBay. We've been lucky enough in all these years to sell items and not have those issues. Buying, on the other hand, we've been ripped off on buying cases where we've had to have eBay stepped in, had them step in on several occasions, and we're talking hundreds of dollars. We got a phony PS4 once. It was a brick, and I know people talk about that, but we had one. It was for one of our kids' Christmas presents, and it showed up way too late to source another one offline, and the prices in store were hundreds of some odd bucks more than what I could have got them because of how late it was in the season and how desirable the item was. So we were very perturbed at that, but that was more for our kids. It wasn't a business aspect of it. I separate that kind of business versus, or that kind of issue versus my business life. So anyway. Yeah, I know as long as you ship to the address provided. I've had issues with that before where they refused or they made some false claim or something. PayPal can be a nightmare in some cases. I've had better luck on some issues with eBay fixing it than PayPal, because PayPal is a very big stickler on some. They won't budge on certain things. You can't talk them into doing something, and they won't give you a courtesy waive in some aspects of it. It's a flip of the coin what's going to happen with some of these. So hopefully they'll wave it in my favor the way it's sounding anyway. So I'm gonna ignore it, just see what happens with it. I'm not gonna waste my worrisome on that. I mean, it's a $30 I think and 9 cents is what the total was. So, worst case scenario, I'm out $30. I only had $1 or something into the item, so. Yeah, Duncan, most stamp collectors will not. They know what they want. They can tell as long as you've got a nice image of the stamp. I don't think I've ever had that on stamps or collectibles of that type. The older the item is, the more collectible and scarce the item is, the less chance I ever have of having something like that happen. I have had one once where the gentleman says he didn't order it, but after I dug into it, it really sounded like he accidentally bought everything in his cart instead of one item, and that's literally what eBay said from what they looked at. They did talk to me, and it was somebody who I've talked to at eBay before, so I knew her enough to build a rapport, and it looked like the gentleman hit all at the same time and just paid off his entire his cart, and he only wanted one item. So I can see stuff like that, but he just wasn't honest with me. It was a long fight over that because he sent it back, and he said a bunch of other issues with this. So anyway, a lot of stuff can happen on here. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, please hit the like button if you haven't hit the like button. We're always going to get that one person with the negative down there or two, and it's always the same person. So anyway, we're pretty much sure where it's coming from, but I don't really care anymore. It's none of my concern. Let me see here. I'm sorry, my YouTube list is just bopping around. It's always the same thing. My chat doesn't do what it's supposed to half the time. Let's see here. Don't they have a store above Anchor Store? Yeah, I think it's Enterprise maybe, where you can list like 100,000 items, something like that. It's on my list. It's in one of my videos. I discussed it. I'm not looking anywhere near that at this point here. It's like maybe it's like a couple $1,000 a year or something like that, or a month, something like that. It's a high price, more than I'm willing to do. That's some pretty good feedback, Duncan. That's some pretty good feedback. Let me see here. Where are we at? Welcome, Michael. Jason Wilson, if I didn't say hi. Mary L. Janet Planet. It sounds like somebody who watched Schoolhouse Rock. I think I'm Janet. I think that's one of the solar system one, if I'm not mistaken. I used to love those. JT Merch, welcome. David Rubino, welcome. Yeah, books on stamps can sell. It just depends on what they are. I bought a huge lot with no real stamps in it, and it turned out the most valuable things were from 1920s, and they were actually a series of stamp identification books. They were all in German, believe it or not, and I was selling the stack of those I got for, each one of those went for more than I paid for this entire huge pallet of stamp material. The books and stuff do sell. It depends on what they are, though. If they're just like a Scott's Price Guide or something along that line, they're not worth a ton of money if they're used. I don't usually mess with them. They're heavy. They weigh a lot to ship. A lot of people don't mess with them that way anyway. Moonshine Fuel. Yes, it is a numbers game. I will agree, especially if you're selling items that are going to be long tail items. We sell a lot. Most of our items are long tail items. So anyway. Let's see where we're at. Welcome, everybody. If I missed you, I apologize. Yeah, postal history documents, stamps, postcards. I sell every one of those, and I sell them very well. I don't mail anything out, though, in an envelope with a stamp. Everything goes first class. Welcome, Tony. Good to see you. Here, I wish YouTube would just stop bouncing around here. Let me see here just a second. Why don't we, I'm going to do a couple call-outs here just so I don't forget. If you want to put up the my call-outs. I'm just going to call out to my folks on Patreon. I've talked about this before. I do have a Patreon page, and I do have some subscribers now. We just started, and I'd like to thank all these folks. Andrew Tarkinson, Annie Schmidt, Chad Turner, Cheryl Furman, Chris Grable, Diego Mastro Giuseppe. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I did actually practice how to pronounce your last name. Diana Cox, Floyd Guttard, John Carlson, Katie May, Co Hegel, Larry Spicer, Linda Farrell, Lisa Bridgman, Mike Petraglia, Nancy Messina Buckner, Richard Johnson, Robert Reagan, Steve Corley, Thomas Lurzer, and then Tony, of course, Tony Zito. I'd like to thank all of you personally for sponsoring and helping support this channel. They are members of my Patreon group, and I will call out folks as they join just as a bonus. We're going to go back to the screen. I don't want to miss anybody here. I do appreciate all the help and the support the channel gets. As I said, I do have some money invested into what we do. I've got a webcam that costs some money. We've got microphones. I've got employees that do this. So I'm not trying to make a living off this at all. My living is and will always be my artwork and my eBay business and reselling. So again, I'm just trying to help defer the costs in my time. I love talking about what I'm doing. I love doing these live videos. I love addressing questions and sharing knowledge. So, you know, my motivation is more of that than anything else. You know, if I make a few bucks, great. If not, I'm not too worried about it. You know, YouTube is a long, drawn-out process to even make a dime on it. Just for those of you who tried it, know how hard it is to see any results from it. So anyway, again, thank you, folks, for supporting us here. Let me go back here because I had a question I was just about to get to, and we've bounced around again. My chat is back on, so I can move down to the next one. Barnstar Vintage Treasures. Can you explain setting for eBay store shipping policy? You mentioned it in a video where you can put the policy in one place where it shows up on all listings. I haven't figured that out yet. I actually have a video that I've shot on that. I just have to edit it, so if you can bear with me, I will have a video covering up just doing the policies. I've got the return policy, the payment policy, and how to set up multiple shipping policies. Now you have to have a store level to do that, from what I understand. I will have, you know, the straight answer. I know it's on the Anchor store and the premium store as well too. I don't know about the basic because it's been so long since I had them. If you have the option though, and you're selling a bunch of stuff, the policies are the bomb for us anyway, you know, because I can set it up for anything I want. I've got different ones. As I said, I'm going to go into all of those in just a video. I'll show you exactly what I use. You'll see the exact information and how I set it up. I'm going to actually set one up in there as I went through the whole step. I set it up. It only takes a couple minutes to do it. You name it what you want. You've got a line to put in information for like detailed information, like use this as default, or if you got other employees, you can put use this one. All kinds of little notes and options to do this with it. So like I set it up so I have free returns in the US, and everybody from overseas is not a free return unless they claim it's not as described. So, you know, that's about the only way you would get stuck with a paid return on something. So again, I will have a video up within the week probably on that specifically because it's already been shot. I do shoot a few videos in the same day just to save some time because I have to set up equipment and lights, the camera, and things like that. Oh, and one other thing here too. I know the sound issues here. Now, I went back and forth over how the sound level is on this, and I even took my camera into a Nikon service agent. I have a Nikon D5300, and the worst, this is the biggest thing that I've had an issue with, and the biggest complaint and the biggest rant I could talk about is this camera. You cannot tether it and plug in an external mic. It will not use the mic if you tether it to a PC, which makes no sense. Nikon told me that's not the case. They argued with me, said, nope, doesn't work like that. They told me just turn off the internal off switch for it. I know I'm rambling on here about this, and a lot of people don't know the camera, but I looked into this, and every Reddit post says the same thing. It won't do it with tether. I looked into a bunch of cameras. A lot of the cameras, the DSL cameras that people could use for the video, they market them to people to use for your video, to use for eBay all at once. But it's just not usable. You can't tether it to a PC and use an external mic. And all this time I thought there was some technical glitch or my port on the camera was broken because that's what Nikon told me, and I didn't want to have a Nikon off. You know, we've got a couple Nikons obviously, but I don't want to send one off because we use 2 or 3 all the time. You know, kids are pulling one for this, so we're doing that. So it's pretty upsetting to find out that their camera doesn't do literally what they say it's supposed to do. And I even updated the firmware and, you know, flashed the firmware into the camera itself because it's a new camera. It's a newer camera. I bought it because it said it did all this. So anyway, other than that, the camera is the bomb. But anyway, we'll move off from the little rant I have there. But let's see here. Thomas Christensen, welcome. Do you always send with trade and track? I track everything. Or do you send without? I track every single thing goes out with tracking. As a top-rated plus seller, you're required to include tracking on like 99% of your items. I just include it on everything. There's been a few rare occasions with somebody I've dealt with before, where I try to do them a favor and send something in the U.S. I'll never send anything out of the country in a non-marked package, because technically you're violating the import-export law, so I'd never do that. But in this country these days, everything gets sent out with tracking everything. It's just much safer than that. And if I lose some sales, I don't care. I'd rather be safe, follow the rules, keep up my top-rated plus status. And a lot of people say that doesn't matter, but I can tell the difference. And talk to some people and see if they have the top-rated plus status, and see their sales in certain areas, especially if they're selling the same thing as you. And for the most part, most people who sell what I do, who have top-rated seller plus status, are seeing good sales. For those who don't have it, or don't have a lot of good feedback, or have a few bad feedbacks, and maybe it's 99.5, 98.7, they're seeing less sales. I mean, that's just a fact. So, and that's what I've come to the conclusion from years of doing this. So anyway. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate the comments on the artwork. Duncan sent an email. I do give these out, so I've given out maybe a half a dozen or more. I'm going to try to give out more as time goes by. We've got some new designs coming out. The actual pig one that's posted and that you see, I'm actually probably going to have to print a second edition of those, just because I've got some calls for like quantity of those now too, which I'm really surprised. I never knew where this was going to go, but sales on artwork and stuff versus 5 years ago when we first tried to do artwork is a totally different ball game now. Etsy and everything else. So for those of you who have artistic talent, it's just going to take you some time to get a little bit of a following. Luckily, I've had some experience. I worked for Disney. I did some artwork for some major companies in the past, and I've been published here and there, and I've got some things in magazines and newspapers. So I've got a few people that have followed me for some years. So, it helps out a little bit, but anybody can succeed. Outsider art is like hot right now. Anything goth, anything steampunk sells, so if you like artwork in that world, you can make stuff even that's steampunk or goth, and it's going to sell. Cosplay, all that stuff sells, For Halloween, I'm probably going to show you in the Halloween show or video, I'll show you a few props that I made myself, and some of the costumes I've made in the past. We've won a lot of costume contests. I always did costumes for my kids. They tell me what they want, we created. I'm going to show you some of that too, but again, not trying to brag. I love Halloween. I'm a family person, and hopefully everybody else is too. So, it's all about the kids for Halloween. And we've toiled, me and the wife, on doing stuff for the kids for Halloween. And we've always had a good kick and enjoyed it. We're a tight family. We bond very well. We're a tight family, I guess. So, anyway, let's move on to this. Let's see here. George, man, welcome. Can you talk about eBay requiring sellers to charge tax on sales? Now, you're required to charge sales tax in your state. So other than that, right now, there is no requirement for charging sales tax from states that you are not in. Nothing that can require you to do that. If it does come down the line, someone's going to probably, like eBay will probably fix or filter it into the system so they collect them on their end, So it'll probably be similar to how Amazon does some of this as well, too. So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't worry about sales tax for other states, but for yours, you darn well better go in there and fill out the chart for sales tax if it's different by the county, and get it all situated in there. And make sure you pay your sales tax. So the day you collect something or sell something in your state, you're legally supposed to be collecting sales tax. Make sure you have a tax ID number, and you have your license for the county or state that you're in. Don't get yourself in trouble before you even got out of the gate. So, I know some people who have run businesses and never had a license, never reported on your taxes, and they've gotten in some trouble too. They've changed the threshold several times on how much you can make online. I think it's a T98 or T99 form that's sent in from PayPal every year. It goes straight to the federal government if you sell over a certain amount. So, and that amount that they include as you sold includes your postage. So let's say you only sold $100 worth of items, but you got $130 actually with the money you collected, including postage. So, they count every dime that's sent into your account, postage included, and that's part of why eBay claims they collect a fee on that as well too. I don't think that's the reason, but I've discussed that part of it before, so hopefully that answers it somewhat there. Do you dabble in Coca-Cola stuff? I do soda shop stuff. If you look in my how-to videos, I've got one video. It's like a 40-minute video just on soda shop collectibles. Our dining room table is a 1949 Saturn table. It looks like it belongs in like a ice cream parlor. We had custom upholstery. We bought it all trashed out. It used to have green roses on it. Now it's got like an atomic. We ordered special fabric. I love vintage soda shop collectibles. My wife's a Pepsi person though, so we've got about 20 or 30 Pepsi signs on the walls, just covered. You can see some of them in some of my early videos when we first started, because I think we shot some at the kitchen table itself. So if you want to see some of that, but I do talk about it. I do mess with some early stuff. I like early Coke bottles. The flat, straight-sided ones are the ones I buy the most of when we do buy them. I go through pics and I see stuff, and we do keep certain items. I love vintage bottles and stuff like that too. So, I've got an assortment of items here. So anyway. What you meant is states. If you're talking about like paying for other states, you only have to pay tax right now on items that you sold in your own state. So other than that, nothing has went through. There has nothing been finalized. Congress would have to pass a law or an amendment of some sort to require interstate commerce tax on internet sales. That has not happened. So as of yet, you have nothing to worry about on taxes. I'm just pretending there's nothing going on with that, because it's not going to hurt me or help me either way, knowing what's going on until they decide and make a change to it. So again, eBay would probably be forced to actually collect it themselves, because they already have some form of physical presence, whether it's, server hubs or something in multiple states. So anyway. Yeah, sinuses around here. Our weather went from 80 degrees yesterday to like 40 some odd when I woke up this morning. It was windy and rainy. It's been a bad week here. So, again, my morning was getting up at 5:30 for one of my kids, and then waiting at the car place and having them touch up on the car again. So I don't like to leave anything. If something's wrong, I always have them do it a once over. Anything needs fixing, I usually just fix it. I don't like to have car issues. That's just me. Welcome, Jada Gypsy. Diane Clank, welcome. I ended up building over 1,000 2-inch long wooden boxes for book. I think I've missed some stuff here. My YouTube is terrible on my chat on my side. I'm sorry, folks, but I move for a second and it bounces down like a huge section. I see several people have sent emails out. Thank you, folks. Again, first person in gets it. Welcome, Scott Sims. Sorry to hear that. We've had issues in the family as well in the past, so I completely understand. Family comes first over anything else, even my business. I would shut this all down in a minute if it meant I had to help my family. Everything. I don't care. Money is one thing. Family is there for life. They're your family. You always take care of your family. The old Godfather, never go against the family. And I'm very, very proud of it. If my kid murdered somebody, different story. I'm going straight to the police. But anyway, welcome, Disney Family 515. When you're going and switching over, don't give up what you're selling, Disney Family 515. If you're making money on something, what you want to do is add new items in. You don't want to take away from stuff that's already selling. If your goal is to do that, yeah, you got to get a ton of items up. It really depends on how many items you have up. And again, research every single item. I've had some people tell me they're not making some movement on things, and I've looked at their store and some listings, and they're not doing enough good research on the items themselves. It's a numbers game, as I talked about just a little while ago. You've got to have the numbers up. Once you're able to do long tail sales, you're going to see that increase on a daily basis. Again, don't give up what you're selling now. You want to diversify. Don't give up something that's selling. I didn't give up clothing. I just stopped buying it unless I run into some high-end stuff. I can't tell you how your specific business is going to need the adjustment, how you're going to do it, how you're going to set it up. I don't know your sourcing. So for me, I can't source clothing here, so I have a necessity to find something else. Their savers are down. All the thrift stores are terrible. Me and the wife went and we found a new one. They didn't have a single piece of clothing in there, and we were going for costume pieces. So You know, it was kind of upsetting to go to a huge Humane Society thrift store that lists, you know, thousands of square feet and not a single stitch of clothing in the entire building when that's what you were going to look for. So, you know, I can't speak for what your sourcing is, and you can get your stuff up. If, let's say, you've got 400 pieces of collectibles, it's going to depend on the specific collectibles themselves as to how you're doing with that. And then again, you've got to have a quantity up. I don't know how many items you've had up in the past. So, you know, that's going to be a key factor in here. But nobody should give up what they're doing if it's making them money. You should just start to add stuff into your mix. So, you know, if you still have sources to get good clothing, don't give it up. Unless you just hate the clothing. I hate clothing. My goal was to get out of clothing no matter what. And if that meant I had to sell all kinds of stuff and sell a lot more cheaper stuff, that's what I did until I moved. And if I wasn't doing the sales and I couldn't get enough income coming in, I sat up and worked 12, 14-hour days. I had the ability to do it. I'm not saying everybody else has that same ability. Again, I don't know where you're at in your business, so take that into consideration. I don't mind getting up at 5:30 and working until 10 o'clock at night. You know, because I've got a drive in me that says I don't ever want to work for somebody else again. I'm just sick of the rat race. Every time I got to take somebody somewhere or have to deal with traffic or the highway or rush hour, I completely feel so relieved coming home and realizing I don't have to do that as a job. So, or, you know, as part of my experience to get to a job. So anyway, let's see here. JT Merch, do you say that PayPal will be an option? I don't know 100%, but I heard that it's still going to be an option if they wish to have it. I don't know how Aiden's going to work, how the switchover is going to work. I just know I'm not switching over to the new payment system until I have to. I don't trust them through the fourth quarter to manage everything right, and I would hate for somebody who's been dealing with me forever through PayPal to be forced to actually register a charge card on a site, because some people may not have a charge card and their PayPal account may be pulled from, you know, their bank account. So if you don't have a charge card, you're not going to be able to buy my merchandise if Aiden only offers a charge card option. So, you know, that's what I look at it as. A lot of people may not have it. A lot of older folks may not want to put a charge card in on an internet site. And a lot of the items I sell are bought by people my age or older for the most part. So anyway. Let me see here. Patrick, welcome. I've been having problems with listing twice a lot lately. Anyone else having that problem? If you're meaning listing the same item twice, you know, you're just going to have to pay attention, I guess. I can't say. Maybe there is a glitch. I haven't seen one. Once in a blue moon, I'll hit and accidentally list the same item twice. You know, all I do is go back and edit it and just turn that item into some other item so I don't have to sit there and worry about credits or any of that other junk. I don't cancel it. I just change the item so I'm not messing with it. Helen, welcome. Let's see here. I have a question on shipping. If it have a 4-pound game, what is the cheapest way to ship it? Do you always charge for shipping across country just to be safe? I use the calculated shipping option for everything. So if it weighs 4 pounds, it's going to show a calculated weight based on the calculated price based on the actual weight. So, and I do that for every one. Every item I got up is calculated shipping, and you won't have that issue. It'll always be the straight price for whatever you're selling. Just make sure that you added enough to compensate for the packing material that you have in there. So again, I compensate for the weight of the packing, I'm saying. So know how much it's going to take. Like most items, I can tell you if it's going to take me a box. I know what a box weighs. I know what I can fit in a 3-ounce first-class package or a 4-ounce first-class package. I know I can fit 2 of these pieces of cardboard, the wrapped cards, and the whole works. So after a while, you'll get to know that. But again, calculated shipping for everything. Hopefully that answered your question too, Disney Family 515. I'm going to be doing another critique, so the option will be out there for some folks if they want to have a critique on the store, on your store. Jennifer Peltier, welcome. Any tips on researching pricing and listing jewelry? Now, most jewelry I do is priced from online sources. I try to only get better types of jewelry, rhinestone studded Hollycraft or, you know, Lisner or, you know, Weiss or something. I want name brand. I'm only usually mess with costume jewelry. I've had so much better luck with costume jewelry than real jewelry. Most real jewelry I usually just scrap for gold value because it's quick, easy. I get pretty decent money around here. I take it to the person who gives you the highest percentage of return That's what I do with it. And again, most everything I list that's jewelry, I search them up on eBay. You'll find some sellers on Etsy and stuff, but eBay is my source for most anything. I sell it on eBay, so I want to source it by the same place I'm selling it at. I want to price it by the same place I'm selling it on. So let's say you want to price it from some other source, some other site. You're not going to be able to get the same results on, say, eBay as you would on Etsy. The pricing structure is different. The clientele is different. So that's kind of how I look at it. Welcome, Peddling Profits. Let's see here. Well, I'm so sorry to hear that, Diana. I do wish you good luck on that. Dwight Lucky, for 45 patron, is the 20-plus minute session with you a one-time session? Or it would be a monthly session, once a month. And it's actually going to be like 20, 30 minutes. I'm not going to sit here on a clock and judge it. Or you can get a complete breakdown typed up on yours, or even a live one-on-one. I'll be on the phone, and we can actually look at your store together if that would be helpful too. Any advice I give, though, I can't guarantee anything I do is going to change anybody else's structure, because I've got local aspects, I've got special sources and things like that. My feedback plays into it. My years doing this plays into it, and I've got a set bunch of clientele. So anybody can get to this point. It's just going to take you some time. We could have lost money for a long time, and I know a lot of people take forever to get to a certain point. When we hit 5,000-6,000 listings, things started to change for us. I can tell you that off the bat. There was times when we ate ramen noodles. We got the kids some good food, and me and the wife ate ramen noodles. So, you're going to have to do that. I felt like I was back in college and, just trying to get by and stuff. So you're going to have to flip more items. You might have to hold off on listing things so you're not spending a ton of money on the fees to list until you get your stuff going. Finding the best items you can get is key, and researching every single item you have. You're going to have to play with prices on things. You're going to have to play with the ability to know if it's rare that I should price it 3 times the price, or I should price it only $2 or $3 over what the item really sells for, so I have a few bucks playing room. Some items you might want to price lower to get the money turned around quicker so you can get a return on your investment quicker. I've said this before, it depends on where you are at in your own personal business. I can't speak for your business level, your understanding of the markets that you are in. There's people that know markets that I wouldn't even have a clue on how to get into at this point. So again, I'm not the know-all of everything, but I know the items that I sell extremely well inside and out. I know my pricing schemes. I know why I price them that way, and I can pretty much show you without a doubt that my pricing does work on a daily basis, because I'm selling them at the prices I'm asking or quoting or listing them at fairly regularly. And if I sold 2 items today to somebody else, the same person. There were excursion cards from like steamship companies. Vinland Steamer, I think, was one of them. And they were both priced at $57.50. They were up for 3 months. And there's no comps for them. So I comp them by other steamer cards similar. I took $25 a piece for those cards to the same person who's bought from me before. I can't tell you that you'd get the same price out of them. I don't know, how the photo is. Are you zooming in? Are you knowledgeable? Do you have a consistency to the best of your ability across your listings? Are your feedback consistent, saying the same things over and over and over again? Or do you have some negatives or some neutrals, or do you have some positives that say some remarks? All of that comes into play. It's a package deal, and I can't stress that enough. eBay or online selling is a package deal. Anybody, Rally Roots or any of the other ones you sell, they're a package deal. They've got a whole system in play for everything these folks do. Everything. They know what to expect out of something. They know what to do on a certain day of the week, or what they're going to pack up, how they're going to pack it up, what they're going to list, where they need to get new sources at, where they're going to get their shipping supplies, what percentage they're going to make. And I would almost guarantee you, from some of the videos I've seen from some other YouTubers, most of them would have to have some knowledge on their numbers in their head. So all of this comes into play. If I'm out somewhere and I accept an offer, I need to know where my pricing structure is. And you need to know your category structure. Like, like my trade cards, I price them all at a certain standard, almost across the board if they're valued at over $20. You have to have some basic knowledge. You have to give it the time too, as I said. If you've only started into paper and collectibles for a couple weeks or even a couple months, it's going to take you a little bit of time. You've got to work on your titles. It took us a year, to even stray away from clothing enough to say that we've got a good market that we can move into. And then it took some time to find some people to actually get a routine purchase of those same items. It's hard when you're first starting off. So I'm not sugarcoating anything. This is a tough industry. It's a hard job. It's going to take you a hell of a lot of work. And I don't cuss very much, but that's about the most you'll hear out of me, because it's a hell of a lot of work. Sometimes you'll see I look a little tired. I may be tired, but I'm so much happier doing this because it's my own show. eBay business is my show, my business, my everything. I can do it as I want. I can, improve it the best I can. I don't have to wait on somebody to tell me to do this or do that. But for those of you who are new and don't get all that aspect of it, there's nothing wrong with not having the full grasp on it, but that needs to be your first goal, is to understand the entire business, understand pricing and structures. If you're not looking up on days when you're not listing or something, looking up items just to give an idea. Like, I scanned through trade cards forever. I scan through postcards constantly to see where pricing trends are. I'll write notes down. I'll look through them constantly. I know what postcards are, how to date postcards very, very easily, very well, from doing this for a long time, like records. I know which labels that I personally look for. And again, any specific label in a record doesn't mean value, but I know I've got a good idea on what to look for. I got a good idea on condition. I know the areas you sell in. You don't have to be an expert in them when you're starting off, but at some point, if you want to be a niche seller in a bunch of niches, you've got to dwell into that and really dig deep and find that information out there. And I can't stress that enough. Information and research is the number one thing anybody can do that will increase your sales and ability to buy better items. Because if you're not researching, you're wasting money on stuff that's just no good. And don't just think you're buying the right item. You darn well better know you're buying the right item. I, in the past, have bought items because I thought I was right. I thought that was the right item. But then when I get home or stuff, I was wrong. So I look up everything. I don't care if I spend an extra hour looking up something, if it's a bunch of stuff and I'm going to make some money. There's just so much more to this. I've got a business background too, so not bragging. I've had some people say I brag or something. I'm being straightforward. I'm not trying to brag or make myself great. I've just done a lot of stuff. I've worked for people as a regional. That was my job. I'm not trying to stress myself as being something I'm not. I've done it so long, I'm tired of wasting time in arguing or dealing with stuff that's just not relevant to the business. So I'm straightforward on business. You might need to reload. We've got a little act up here, so if it's acting up a little bit, we're going to try and reload the upload feed here, so just bear with us here. But hopefully that gives you some ideas. I'm not trying to rant on the issue, but it takes a lot of work from a seller to get their business to a certain level. If you've been doing clothes and you want to switch over to away from clothes because you hate clothes like I do, it's going to take you some time to get the systems in play, to know what to list, to know how to list it, to know which items should be bunched together in a lot or which items should be sold singly or individually. So, I see we're still playing off a little bit bad here, so hopefully we're not too choppy on your end here. Anyway, let's go down and see here what we got going on. Thanks, Thomas. Let's see here. What's something you wished you had bought that you didn't? Hopefully my dog isn't being too annoying. She's dying for Dad. She's my dog, I guess you could say. I've got a little chihuahua just staring at me over here, whining. That's a hard one. What should I have bought? What didn't I buy? It's hard to say because, I don't dwell on that too much. I've made mistakes and said, oh, darn it, I should have bought it. I guess the only one that comes to mind is there was a Star Wars figure, and I've showed it in a action figure haul, that I didn't buy. I didn't realize that's what it was. I didn't do my homework and research it in the store, and it was like a $1,500 action figure, just a 3 3/4 inch action figure. And at the time, I just didn't realize it was a Star Wars figure. I got home and I dug around and I typed in fish figure and stuff, and I spent 20 or so minutes looking because I thought that I should have bought it because it was dirt cheap. And I went back the next morning. They were closed that same day. It was 45 minutes from my house, and I said, I'm probably wasting an hour and a half drive. And sure enough, they were all gone, every one of them. And it turned out it was like the last 17 Star Wars figures sitting in a junk bin. I could have had them for a quarter, 50 cents a piece. I could have walked out of there with $2,000 or $3,000 in action figures alone. Hadn't a clue. That I stopped collecting, Star Wars in like 1980. So these were like 83, 84 issues, and I just wasn't up on them at that time. Nowadays, I know my Star Wars figures. I know any action figure that's in my genre. If it came out when I was alive, I can guarantee you I know the figure. People have posted figures in my group, and I've pretty much been on an action figure, been dead on what they were instantly. Because I always look for figures. Broken, not, I'll buy them pretty much across the board. So that would be my biggest mistake, I guess. Jinxie. My dog is going to drive me crazy today. Let's see here. Let me go down because I keep getting bounces around. Let me see here. Pardon me again. My chat turns on and off constantly throughout the video. Let's see, here's a good one here. On the U.S. Postal Service going up on shipping rates. They do it all the time. It's probably went up a dozen times or more since I've been doing eBay. It's just included in the price. That's why I do calculated shipping, because it doesn't matter what they change it to. The shipping's just automatically going to be... You can let her come down if she's going to be that noisy. Come here. Come here. I don't know what my little girl wants over there. That's my female chihuahua over there. She's driving me nuts. You can probably hear her in the background here. But anyway. Where are we at? Good to know about the camera. Yeah, that's annoying. Sparko Cam, I have not heard of that one. I may check that out. Yeah, Top Rated Plus, I would not want to lose that. It's a couple $1,000 extra a year you get with the discounts, honestly. Depends on how much you sell. The more you sell, the more you're going to get back out of it. I've talked about this before. Every place you can save a dime or a nickel, like in each transaction or somewhere, at the end of the year, it all adds up to thousands of dollars. I mean, it's literally thousands of dollars. We save, I think it's like $2,400 a year by just having 2 anchor stores versus 1 anchor store. So, and then I save with Top Rated Seller Plus $1,000 per store. Maybe it's even more than that. I couldn't even tell you at this point. I haven't looked at it, in the last couple of weeks. Let's see here. Welcome to Evermore Antiques. I sell one-off items and do around 7 or 8K a month, and I am not Top Rated Plus. I refuse to give free returns for a 10% pop. In all honesty, I haven't had any free returns to give out when I'm selling these items, honestly. So, I'm fine with Top Rated Plus. It's your call on it. I'm not saying it's wrong. It depends on your own business and your own feelings on that. So, for me, it's worth $1,000. I almost never have a return. I haven't. Geez, I can't even tell you when the last return was. I think we had one maybe once in the last week, but that would probably be the first one in like year and a half or more. I've never seen an increase whatsoever when I offered free returns. And clothing-wise, I know people who offered the free returns in clothing and they stopped it immediately when they kept getting returns constantly. People try something on, not be happy with, and send it back. So I can see that. It just depends on what you sell. Collectibles and antiques, you just don't get them back. I don't anyway. Toys, any of that stuff, I don't get it back, and if I made a mistake, I'd be happy to take it back in the first place anyway. So, it just depends on your structure. There's no right or wrong way to do any of this. There's your way to do it. It's your store. You do it how you want, and, justify it to yourself and how you feel. Make sure your numbers match what your expectations are over your actions and how you do your store. So hopefully that makes a little sense there. Let me see here if we can get it without it popping down again. Let's see here. Yeah, I despise clothing, I have to say. It's just a rat race to me, and I can't get it. That's my biggest problem. I can't get clothing around here if I wanted to. Let me see here. I'm bouncing around again. Okay, now we're back on track. Yeah, I haven't seen any notice from eBay, Helen, on that. I will have to dig into that, honestly. In fact, I want to write that down. It depends on the states themselves, from what I guess. But again, if they're collecting it, it wouldn't be any issue. And if they're collecting 3 states, I can guarantee you at the end of the day, they'd just probably collect all of them. So again, you probably wouldn't even have to worry about it. But I wrote that down. I'll look into that and see what I can find out on that as well, too. So, do you ever shut down for vacation mode, or do you have employees that keep it running? I have people that'll show up and just pack up if that's what the case can be. So I'm not too worried about shutting it down. I don't think we've ever shut it down. Yeah, I can't remember in the 6 years we've been full-time that I've ever shut it down. 7 days a week. When I'm out of town, we have put a vacation notice on stating that we will be out of town and won't be shipping and things. A couple occasions when we had an illness in the family and had to leave town. But other than that, I've never shut it down. JT Merch. Now, I've heard that we would still have it, but I don't know for sure. I've heard it half a dozen different ways on the new payment of Aiden versus PayPal. I don't know what the answer is. And I honestly, maybe they don't even know at this point yet either. It depends on how bad they get hurt when the folks who love PayPal, can't use PayPal anymore, whether that'll be a kicker for them or not. And I think it will be, honestly. Yeah, I can't say on the vacation mode. I know if you put delayed shipping on clothing or new items, that can hurt your sales. On collectibles, I don't think I've ever could notice any concernable loss in sales from something like that. Hopefully that answers that question here. Hang on, let me pop down here. Yeah, Nevermore. I'm just worried with switching over. That's another reason I didn't want to do a third Anchor store. Another reason I won't accept their new payment services until it's forced. I don't want any hiccups or bumps in fourth quarter. For those of you who sell on Amazon too, I've been seeing a huge increase in my Amazon sales this past 3 weeks. So hopefully everybody else is too. eBay's up too, but Amazon was surprising. I sold 5 different record sets this morning, just this morning. Usually I don't sell that many record sets in one day on Amazon, and it was a little extra to pack today. So, and it was the wrong day to have extra to pack because of the car issue today. But anyway. Yeah, sport and concert clothing can do. I do sell rock concert shirts just because I love music, so I do look for those occasionally. I've kept some for myself, unfortunately, I guess you could say, but... Yeah, Johanna Parrish, credit cards can be an issue for many people. Aiden's the same. For those of you who don't know, I think Aiden's the same one that does our Etsy as well, too, if I'm not mistaken. I don't pay much attention to that. Wife does some of the business on that aspect of it. But Aiden's been around for a long time and has done business the same way. They're well rated. I mean, they had less complaints than even PayPal. So I think that the site's going to be fine. It's just whether the eBay buyers are going to want to switch is the key thing, my issue with it. I think the service has a very good and strong track record personally. Have I ever received best offers in auctions yet? No, I don't have any best offer option on any of my auctions. I got... we use up our free auctions, and I don't even use up all my free auctions. We get 1,000 per store. I usually run maybe 500 or 600 auctions a month, just to use up some of those. And I have no buy it now or best offer options on any of my auctions whatsoever. There is a little click you can click off when you have a store our size that'll stop that from happening. For the most part, I hardly ever list auctions in the first place. I do buy it nows for almost everything. As I said, 95 to 98% of every single thing I sell is sold on a buy it now best offer. 95 to 98% of everything I sell is done that way, successfully, routinely, and constantly. Let me see here. Where are we? Let me see. Got a few more questions going in. Is it bad to use black background for jewelry? No, it depends on the jewelry. We have the black velvet hands. I've got a black velvet tray. I've got a black velvet neck display. And I use those for jewelry. With jewelry is a different story. You can't list it obviously on Amazon anyway, so no big deal. But on Facebook, I always try to list it, use the background that fits the item the best with jewelry. And for the most part, jewelry with the black background works very well. My wife takes the best pictures on jewelry. She just whatever the case may be, she always gets the best images on those. So I always let her do the jewelry. Mine come out blurred and all this other stuff. So, you know, like I said, maybe I don't have the patience on that, but they come out great with the black background. Maybe I'll show you some jewelry, 'cause I've got a couple jewelry videos that I've been, you know, meaning to finish off. I've got a couple clips filmed here and a couple clips there that I just haven't finished off, and I'll just have to get to one of those, and that is on my list of stuff to do. So I'll put something together there too. Yeah, anybody can do this moonshine fuel. There's nothing special whatsoever about anything I've done or do. I've just got 20 years of knowledge in the business, which anybody, if you take the time and effort, you can get it. There's a lot of people who've done what I do who can fly into doing the business aspect. But again, you're going to have to learn the collectibles or the clothing. Everything I've sold on eBay, there's been a learning curve on everything I've sold. And I've made many mistakes. When I first started off, I made a ton of mistakes in paper. I made a ton of mistakes in clothing. My biggest problem was I'd miss like a defect on the piece of clothing. I didn't check it close enough when we originally started to buy. And that hurt me a little bit. You know, there was times when I just had to throw away a couple pieces of clothing that I sunk some good money into. With paper, though, I'm never spending very much on it. So, you know, if there's a damaged piece of paper, it can be repaired, it can be fixed, or I can actually still sell it damaged. I do sell a lot of damaged paper. So let me see where we're at. Yeah, cost. So whatever does good for jewelry. But for the most part, if it's not jewelry or something that demands a black background, follow Amazon's rules and always use a white background because it mostly shows off the item. You can do the images, you can do one image as a ping maybe even, so it's just floating, or get a nice layout so you can take some quality pictures so just the item shows in the image. That's the best way to do it for most standard items. Again, jewelry is a special case. Coins sometimes are a special case too. If you put stuff like that that's really shiny and reflective, the photo will be glared out because of the white background versus the shininess of that. So you've got to take into account what kind of camera you're using too. So if you're using a DSLR, you'd want to use a black background with some of the shinier items. Just from experience anyway. How much did you grow? I got to a 5,000 on my own in my store by myself, pretty much. Let's see, who was asking that? Sharif Hoffman. That's literally what it took me. I got up to around 5,000 or so. From there, we started bringing in people and then hiring a few people. And, you know, it's up to, you know, like, I want to say it's around 46,700 and some odd listings up right now. Obviously, we're selling. I'm not getting up as many as I had originally planned, but we're still rolling fine. I'm still in my ballpark range for this time of year, just because we've got a lot of stuff going on. Part of the reason I'm trying to compensate a little bit for doing the videos and taking my time up on here, because I am pulling away from part of my active eBay business to do this. So, you know, I'm just trying to compensate anyway. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, you can do stuff for other sellers too. I've done that in the past. I've sold stuff for some other sellers. I've turned people on for deals that I got turned on to too, not just with pickers, but across the board. We're going to have to cut it short here because we're right at the end, and I hate to cut it off right in the middle of a conversation, but I didn't realize how late it is. Ian has school in the morning too. He gets up fairly early, so I don't want to keep him up or anything like that. But I'm going to try and go back, and if you had any more questions I didn't get to, please leave them down in the comment section below once the video is posted back up. Again, I appreciate everybody being on tonight. I did give away a free card. I've got another free card next week. Patreon is there. Why don't you just show out the Patreon video real quick if you don't mind. I'll just put out the Patreon quick reel here so you can see the Patreon if you're interested. And then we're going to sign off after that. Again, my Facebook group is here. My Patreon page, if you're unaware or you're interested. I do try to respond. I do post some different content up there. It's not a huge content, but again, it's trying to support this channel right here. But we're going to sign it off for tonight. We are going to say good evening. Hopefully everybody's having a good fourth quarter. I thank everybody, and I appreciate you being on tonight, and have a good one.